Right, so I've got Stephanie here with me today. So you're a little bit nervous, aren't you? But you don't need to be.
Yeah.
Right. So we've had a bit of a chat before as well. So I do know a little bit about Stephanie's background, but I'll let you give yourself a little bit of an introduction and
Okay. So I'm Stephanie from Sheffield and originally an RAF kid, so moved around quite a little bit. And me and Amy got chatting a couple of weeks ago now, and just found a bit of common ground on mental health and our outlook on it, and a bit of a couple of ideas of what we want to do to spread awareness, really. And I've got a little bit of a background myself of dealing with mental health and coming out from the other side of it. And I just think it would be nice to see if I can share my story, maybe it'll help, just one other person.
I think it will.
That's what I'm going to talk about today. Um,
No, I think it will. So with your mental health then, do you want to explain a little bit about where that journey kind of started?
yeah, so it's a tough one because I didn't know that it's taken me, 20 odd years to figure out that there was something officially wrong, something not quite right in my head. And I think um, it's only been throughout lockdown that I've managed to seek the help and like I say, come out the other side. And it actually started when I was living with my stepdad from the age of about 2.5 till he wasn't completely out of my life till I was around 15. And he was very, very physically and mentally abusive in the family. But it was never to me. It was to my mum and brother. So I always just presumed that, I didn't go through anything. Unfortunately it happened to the two people closest to me. And those two seem to be doing okay. So why am I not okay? Um, but then one day I was folding the kids' washing ready for Monday at school, and I had the biggest breakdown that I had, and my husband was just kind of a bit taken aback by it, and it was kind of that something that needed to happen for me to want to go and seek proper help. I've been on tablets for antidepressants, although I would never call myself depressed. There was a hell of a lot of anxiety there. Um, but never, the word depressed didn't suit me. I'm a really confident person, and I'll walk into a bar on my own and make friends. Even in my job, I speak to different people every day. I would never call myself depressed or a bit of a recluse. But then I saw the doctor and I said, look, yes, I'm on these tablets, but this happened the other day where I did reach for the cupboard to take too many tablets, and that were, I've got two kids and a husband, and surrounded by so much love and success that's just not right. So he referred me for therapy, and the whole time I was thinking, what am I going to talk about? That there's nothing wrong with me. I don't even know what I'm going to say to this person. But then the first session happened and just the floodgates opened. Honestly, I think speaking to someone that knows nothing about you, that doesn't have any preconceived ideas, um, and is just there to kind of listen and guide you through your own thoughts and make sense of your own thoughts and kind of affirm that it's okay, that just helped significantly. um, I was referred for 6 sessions and it just kept on getting extended. So we ended up on 13 sessions. So there was quite a bit to work through, unbeknown to me. But yeah, it really, really helped talking to someone.
I think that's the thing is, especially as you say, from like a young age, sometimes the trauma is so deep that you don't even really know it's there because you've always just managed it
Yeah,
and got on with it. And I
yeah,
think your story is really interesting and really important as well because witnessing, abuse has had an impact on your
Yeah.
health. And it's one of those things that people probably don't think about.
No, and I think that's what's driven me to explore and talk about it further, is because I'd never heard of someone being a victim of witness to abuse. You know, that's new to me, and how it affected me was just crazy. It was I think it had more of an impact once I'd had the kids, and I became a wife, a mum. I was doing really well at my job, but in my own head, I had what me and my therapist called my good self and bad self. That's what I called it. So, for example, if the thing that happened when I was folding the kids' washing, which was the moment, was when I relate back to it, it just makes complete sense because I was folding. I went to fold the washing. I thought I'd done the washing, so I went to the basket and I'd not washed it. So in my head, what happened was, Steph, you're a shit mum. You can't even do the washing. What's the point in you being here? You, you're a shit wife. What's he going to think of you if you can't even do the washing? And it just spirals. And that spiral effect was just crushing me, because it would happen with such small things, um, that they would just roller coaster into me not wanting to be here anymore. And I knew that wasn't right. That's not normal. So what we later figured out what it was that that's what my stepdad used to say to my mum. You know, if his sandwiches weren't right, yeah, you know, you
Mm.
shit. And then the abuse would start. But that's what I grew up with. That language in my head was normal to me. And being so harsh on yourself was all I knew.
You're
And
effectively bullying yourself, aren't you? Like when you're like saying that
exactly
out
that, yeah.
you literally are bullying yourself.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it was, because that's what he was.
Mm.
Um, and I think that there's just been so many times where it's been him in my head. That therapist did this really crazy thing. I'm not sure if I told you before, Amy, but I call her a magician, a witch, something, because what she did was out of this world. So because I distinguished between the two people, there was Steph, my confident, normal self, who I knew and loved, and who Dave married, to then this recluse of someone who doesn't think they're worth being on this planet. So she said, what I want you to do is invite this other person into your room and let them sit next to you. So give them a face, give them being. So I did, and this person looked like me, and there was happened to be no spare chair in my office, so I sat them on the floor, cross-legged, and she said, "What I want you to do now is sit in their position and become that person." And I thought, "What are you doing? This is
Yeah. Oh my God, I got
really
to sit on
weird.
the floor.
I'll roll with it. Okay, I'll give it a try." And I did, and then I just transformed into this hurt, upset child, and I burst into tears, where that crying, that uncontrollable sob where you just can't even speak.
You can't breathe.
You know, there was snot coming out my nose, there was everything. But then the therapist couldn't see me because we were on Zoom because it was lockdown. She was like, "Steph, you okay?" And I'm like, "No."
What have you done
And
to me?
and when I became my bad self, I'd never felt so worthless and hurt in my life. It was so overwhelming. I was distraught. And then she turned it around and she said, "Right, I want you to come back and sit back in your good self's chair." And I did. And she brought me back round. And this wasn't hypnotherapy, nothing like that. She's, a general therapist, NHS, Barnsley NHS, can't recommend her enough. Um, and and I was like, "What have you just done to me?" And I kept looking and I was like, I do not ever want to be that person ever again. That is, that was horrific. But
Mm,
it was kind of affirmation that it wasn't me. It was, it's somebody completely different. And it wasn't until we discovered that, well, I discovered that there is a thing of being a victim of abuse. That's the vocabulary that I was brought up with. If you do something wrong, then you are worthless.
mm,
Um, and that things always have to be precise and correct 100% of the time. And yes, I have that trait in me anyway, but it was just heightened to the extreme that if it's not, then you're a complete failure. And it it's just crazy that be, just listening to that, to them words, and seeing the physical abuse, and not being able to do anything about it at such a young age, and wondering why my mum stayed, why my brother didn't fight back,
mm.
why the police weren't involved. There are so many questions, but I think what I've done now in the past sort of 6 or 12 months is just sort me out first,
Mm.
and then look at other things. I've had to sort my own head out, and realize that you can't be perfect, and the washing can get done, at a later time.
It's,
um,
it's that little
you know,
voice though, isn't it? And I suppose if you have like little glimpses of it every now and again, and it's almost like because I can like that resonates with me with the anxiety, because I feel myself kind of going into a slightly into like a different person almost when I'm
yeah, I know when it's happening. Yeah,
like snappy, and I'm like, this isn't what I'm like, I'm not this person. So it really resonates with me, that, and you kind of get glimpses of it, don't you? So I can see
yeah,
how, like, to fully immerse yourself into that, I'm like, right, I'm gonna feel it. You're basically letting yourself feel, those feelings, and
yeah,
then having to deal with it. But it's such
mm,
it's such a big thing to kind of realize when you
yeah,
lived your life thinking that you're fine, and not really being open-minded to the fact that you've been through some and seen some things that are traumatic.
yeah, yeah. And I think when you mentioned then about letting yourself feel those feelings, the first time I got upset since I got my letter saying that I no longer needed therapy, and I was like, it's official, I'm better. Um, the kids are doing me head in one day, and we were in the car, and they were in the back seat, and they were just constantly fighting, and it just got a bit. It had been all day, and this was tea time, so it was Sunday. I've been with them all day, and they were just. It's lockdown, that they play up, but I just got this frustrated feeling, and I wanted to cry, and I was like, shit, what do I do? Should I be crying? Can I cry now? Is it all right? Is it okay to be frustrated? But what I learned, the biggest thing was to contain that issue. So I've learned now, when that one little thing comes up, that's okay. Be upset about it or be angry about it. It doesn't mean that it has to spiral, that you've put weight on, you're a shit wife, you're a bad mum, the business is failing. It doesn't need to have that spiral effect. You can contain that emotion to that one event.
Mm,
And that's huge for me, because if anything went wrong with me, like I said, the tiniest thing, it would spiral. And that's where the suicidal thoughts came in, and, these terrible things. And it's okay to be upset and to be angry or frustrated or have anxiety about something. That's normal.
mm.
It doesn't mean that because I'm officially better, I'm still on a shed load of drugs at the minute, but that's the next step.
Baby
um
steps.
exactly, yeah, exactly that. And it's about containment, and if something goes wrong, deal with that one thing at a time. It doesn't mean that everything else is failing around you. It really doesn't.
Mm.
um, you've just had a bit of a hiccup, and that's okay.
I think as well, if you are a perfectionist and you'll hard on yourself for things, and then you
Yeah,
bottle it up and kind of fester on it, don't you? And then it builds up and builds up and builds up, and it's going
yeah,
out like at some
Yeah,
point.
it does. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's better that you have that moment where you're like, oh, I'm really frustrated or I'm really upset, and just let it out then,
yeah.
rather than letting it build up and build up and then crying or having like a breakdown over something that's really not even, you know,
Mm.
rationally
It's not
anything.
sane. It's not healthy. It's not right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can still have those moments too, you know, if you do feel that things are crashing around you,
Mm.
I think feel it, but get help,
Yeah.
because nothing is too difficult to deal with. You
Yeah.
know, I didn't even know what was wrong with me, and we were looking at bipolar and split personality disorder, and we were looking at all sorts of things because it was that significant in my head, the way that this language was in my head.
Mm.
Um, because I differentiated the two.
Mm.
So it, I just think emotions are, it's a full-time job managing them.
Yeah.
And along with not just the emotions in your head, you have the physical side effects as well. You know, is there weight gain, weight loss, the heart palpitations, they're not sleeping, they're not eating right, they're not wanting to see certain people, not doing things that will put you in certain situations. It has such a knock-on effect. But if from this, if anyone can learn that sometimes things do go wrong and that's fine, but just contain it to that one thing
Mm.
and deal with that one thing at a time. Baby steps, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. And like, one thing doesn't mean that you're failing. You're not failing
He
at
doesn't
being a
know.
mom because you do washing. But it's that build up of things. I
Yeah.
can see how, especially at the moment, like everyone's, you know, routines have changed and everything's just
Mm,
so alien. So to have to try and change and adapt to it, it's, you know, going to have an impact, and people are going to be dealing with things differently, and that's fine. It's just
yeah,
being aware.
yeah. It is, and I think surrounding yourself with the right people as well,
Mm.
um, and having the confidence to remove any kind of negativity and people that just aren't there for you 100%. I mean, I was speaking to Dave about doing this podcast, and I said I don't want to go into too much detail about what happened those years ago. I think mental and physical, what just saying that I think explains what
Mm.
it was, but it was the worst end of the scale. It wasn't, you know, kind of generic. It was extreme.
Yeah.
And he said, and then we got talking about like how my mental health has affected him
Mm.
being my husband and what he's gone through dealing with my crazy head. And I think that's another aspect of mental health that you know we can look at and try and make more awareness of, is that he's picked me up from the worst states. Then what does that do to him?
Yeah, that's something. I filmed a podcast actually with my partner, but I haven't put it out yet. But
Oh, really?
I didn't tell him what I was going to ask, because he's never
Right.
had any kind of mental health issues. He knows about
Yeah.
it. He teaches it, but from personal
Yeah.
experience, he's seen it and been around it, but not experienced it personally. And
Hmm.
when we met, I've always had the anxiety, but I've always
Yeah.
done it quite well. And then obviously when you like live with somebody, see different sides to it. And then
Hmm.
last year was a really difficult one for me. So he saw like a whole other side to it, and he had to kind of understand it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
um, you know, it's hard, like it is, because it's hard to sympathize with something that you don't understand and haven't experienced.
Yeah.
And then it's knowing how to be there for that person as well. And that's quite
Mm,
emotionally draining, because a lot of people, when they're kind of in a rut, you kind of push people away. So it's, or like you say, like lean on them. There's no kind of in between, is there? So
yeah.
it's that impact that has on other people, and being aware that, you know, if somebody isn't in a mentally good place and they're taking on a lot of somebody else's
Mm,
struggles, it's really hard. There's so many different like dimensions to it. It's not as simple as somebody's got this and this means this. There's so
yeah,
many different layers. There's so many different people that
the
are
ripple
affected.
effect, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Dave's been, I've known Dave's, well, been with him since I was 15, with a little break in between. Um, and he's never understood it. He is a typical Yorkshire bloke. Feed him Yorkshire puddings and gravy, let him watch football, and he's happy. But he knows that that is so far from the case for me,
Mm,
and he deals with it amazingly. And sometimes he'll just give me a hug. Sometimes when the anxiety was really bad and it was sort of bordering on panic attacks, he was googling everything. And then one time I was going into one, and I went, David, it's happening. And he went, right. And we were in Filey in a caravan, and he went and got a bottle of fairy liquid, shoved it under my nose, and he went, smell that. It's like, why?
what are you doing?
And he said, strong smells can bring you out of it. So I
Okay.
was like,
Never even had that, and I've googled it.
sniffing this fairy liquid, and it helped. It
And
actually helped.
I think just the
Another
pure
one,
confusion would work.
oh my,
What's going on?
what am I doing?
Oh,
And another one was rubbing my feet. And
you're like,
that helped.
I can deal with
That's
that.
great. That's a really good one to have done. But yeah, he looked it up, and rubbing my feet during an attack again can bring you down from it.
Yeah,
Um, but it's just having someone around you, and finding those people that will do that for you.
yeah,
Um, that's been a great help. But then again, like, he must be panicking himself, thinking, what's going on here?
yeah,
What's happening to her?
yeah.
Sorry, I swore then.
Oh no, it's fine. I've had loads of swearing. It's fine.
Oh, I'm holding the swearing back. Right,
No, let
okay.
it all out. It's fine. Luke with Tourette's. It's fine. Like, if you want to swear, swear. Um, no, I think I definitely agree with you about like surrounding yourself with the right people. And I have really realised the thing is, you kind of go through a phase with it, and there's a bit where it's really lonely. Like it is really lonely
Mm,
because you kind of realise, you know what, maybe this person isn't as good a friend as I thought, or
yeah,
or
yeah,
maybe
you can lose people. Yeah,
maybe we've grown apart, maybe we're different people, or situations change, people move, people, however it happens, it can be really lonely. But
yeah,
I was really lucky because my partner's brilliant as well, although he hasn't understood. We've worked
yeah,
on that, and he's been willing to understand. And I'm getting to a point now where I'm kind of realizing that I'm attracting the right people. So like I'm getting
right,
these opportunities to meet people that I'm like, do you know what? I can see us being really good friends. And
yeah,
like it's nice, but you have to let space for that and accept that, it might be lonely for a bit, but you're better off being surrounded by the right people
yeah,
than the wrong people.
yeah.
Or if there's that transition period, then it's worth it. And you're never
Mm,
really alone because there's so many places you can reach out to
yeah,
for support. So rather than
yeah.
being around people that bring you down, let
Mm.
let you build yourself up, and then you'll gravitate, the right people.
Yeah, and like you just said, you're attracting the right people, and I think that comes from being in the right space, the way you've removed the mood hoovers from your life,
I love that.
and that they've gone, and you give off certain types of energy, like me and you were saying, being empaths.
Mm,
It's difficult because you have your own emotions to deal with, but then whoever you surrounding yourself with, you pick up on their energy, and you suck all that up in as well, and you feel like you have to take that on. So learning to shut that out as well. um but I think I'm a I'm a huge believer in surrounding yourself by the right people. And it's I actually had it tattooed last year. I've got the seventh chakra,
oh, okay.
um with a mandala around it, because it just means that your life can go up and down, left and right. It can go all over the place, but in the center of it all, if you've got the right people, you will, stay grounded and be supported.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's a big one for me, and Dave played a huge part of that. And like my brother's my best friend, and my mum is like the rock of our family.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I think I am fortunate to have that. And I do think that if you haven't got that, then it can be created, reach out to the different groups. You could find the perfect person to surround yourself with.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've had, it's funny because I think it was last year. I was like, well, I like take the piss out of myself. I'm like, well, at least the wedding will be cheap. Won't be anyone there. It's fine. I don't have any friends. I don't like anyone, so it's fine. And it's not true. I do like people, but I was just at that point where I'm like, oh, whatever, I don't care, because
Yeah,
I don't want to be around. And then it kind of takes that time to build it up and be like, "Do you know what, I am a nice person. I can be around
yeah.
good people, but I need to be willing to push myself out of my comfort zone to get
Mm.
speaking with
But it
people."
also takes effort.
Hard, yeah,
Yeah, to maintain relationships, it takes a lot of effort. And if you're in a bad headspace, you haven't got that effort.
exactly.
Like you really haven't. I've got my best friend from school. We hardly ever see each other.
Mm,
But there's the odd Snapchat, or we FaceTimed a couple of times over lockdown, and nothing huge. But when I did speak to her and I made that effort, I felt so much better after.
and it doesn't need, I think that's important as well, it doesn't need to be everyday communication at all.
No,
I've got
no,
got a friend that, we don't really even message that much, but we message to
yeah,
arrange to meet up, and then when we meet up, we have, obviously not so much over the last year,
yeah,
but when we meet up, we have a massive catch up, like
yeah,
find where we are with things, and it's lovely. Every time I come back, I'm like, oh, right, we'll do it again, when we'll book it in for next time. And it
yeah.
doesn't need to be the constant communication. People don't, some people are like that, and other people don't
Mm,
don't communicate like that. But it's having, if you don't feel good when you're with someone, or after you've come back from seeing someone or speaking to
mm,
somebody, then that's a big sign, I think.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, it is. I've got a couple of people around coming for a socially distanced garden party on Saturday for my brother's birthday, six of us. And yeah, it's a great bunch of people that are just very like-minded. They've all got their own issues, and they all kind of come out over the vodka, and we put the world to rights. And they're not my friends, they're my brother's friends, but
Okay.
it's his birthday, and I kind of come as a part of him in the social world. And yeah, I think once, if you mention it, even to a stranger, they'll be like, "Oh, I know so and so," or "I've had this," or "I'm going through this." The more you talk about it, the more you find that it's just normal to not be quite normal,
Mm.
but you
What is
can you
normal?
can get over it. It's pardon,
What is normal?
fuck knows.
There's no such thing.
I don't think there is. You're right. I don't think there is. We've all got our own quirks, and I probably wouldn't be the crazy bitch that I am if it wasn't for my stepdad. And that's who Dave fell in love with. It's who my friends love, and
Mm,
it's made me who I am. But I've just eliminated the negative side of it now. Um,
exactly.
I feel like a different person. I really do.
Mm,
I started I started the business in September, and
mm.
I started the therapy in October, I believe. Um, and I just think, yeah, probably without being a bit crazy, I might not have started the business.
Yeah. But you need to, take risks and
Mm,
do these things, and these kind of like quirks, personality quirks are, and like, the things that you get from mental health issues can be turned into a positive and into a strength.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I always know, that I'm always very conscious of how I make other people feel, because
mhm,
I've been made to feel very uncomfortable because of my anxiety. So although that's hyper, like a hyper alert example, I'm
yeah,
very conscious of how, what I'm saying or doing might affect somebody else. So that's a,
mm,
benefit that I've got
yeah,
from suffering with being anxious. So
yeah.
and
Yeah.
now I'm like talking openly to people all
Yeah.
the time about it. And I'm like, do you know what? It doesn't matter because everyone's got issues and everyone's been through things. And, some people,
Mm.
you'll compare and it will be, well, I haven't really got anything to complain about. But everyone's got,
Exactly that. Yeah. That was my own thought for me was, what is there to complain about?
yeah,
Why am I feeling like this? With the
yeah,
side effects that were very similar to you, with the anxiety and becoming a recluse and
mm,
affecting general life. It's like, why do I feel like this? So you didn't want to say it to anybody because you think that's what they're thinking. Well, what's their issue?
yeah, exactly. What have you got to be anxious about?
Yeah,
Everything's fine. Why are you
yeah,
depressed? You've got a partner, you've got your own place,
yeah,
and it's that kind of, it's anyone can feel like they're struggling. It doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter how much money you've got, doesn't matter how many people
mm,
you've got around you. If it's in your head,
yeah,
in your head, it's not. It's like when there's all that stuff about Meghan Markle, wasn't there, with the feeling suicidal, and I was like, she's allowed to feel suicidal. Like
yeah,
it's she's human. Like I know
mm.
celebrities and everything, you kind of see them and think they're different
Yeah.
to
There was that one at the beginning of lockdown with Sam Smith who was crying outside of his £8 million mansion, feeling a bit shit for himself. And it was like, so he's not allowed to feel shit.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's that saying, isn't it? I'd rather be crying in my Mercedes than on a bicycle. But each to their own. If someone's feeling a bit shit, let them feel it.
Yeah, exactly. Who is anyone to judge
Yeah.
how someone else is feeling? You don't
Mm,
truly know. You're never going to someone can be the best at explaining how they feel in the whole wide
mm,
world, but you're not feeling it. So you
yeah.
can't ever know truly how it is. I mean, to be completely honest, for me, I up until last year didn't really understand suicide. I
Yeah.
didn't, I didn't I kind of like I didn't understand how somebody could feel that bad that they would think that was the only option until last year when I was feeling at my worst. And I was
Mm,
like, do you know what? I can see now if I was feeling how I'm feeling and I didn't have the support and I didn't have this going and I didn't have this person that I could speak to, I could see how somebody would think I can't go on anymore, and
yeah.
it's a real eye opener for me because
Yeah.
I'm very like empathetic and understand. I'm good at seeing other people's perspectives.
Mm,
I didn't truly understand it until I was as close to that situation as I ever wanted
yeah.
to be. I don't want to ever be, in that place.
Yeah. That is, like, I'd say the worst feeling in the world is, thinking that you shouldn't be on this planet. And I think suicide's a real touchy subject for me. Um, yes, I've had my moments, but I never, I wouldn't say I would 100% have done it, even though I've reached for it a couple of times and got to that point where in my head I decided that I shouldn't be here anymore. Whether I'd have done it, I doubt it very much. Um, because my real dad, um, mum left him when I was 1. He moved abroad with the forces, and we started to build a relationship when I was 18.
Mm,
And I went to go and see him in Australia, went again to see him when I was traveling in Australia at 21. Um, Invited me to his wedding, me and Dave and my little girl. And his wedding was going to be on the day after Boxing Day, um, 2012. And I'd had I'd decided that during the pregnancy I wasn't going to go to the wedding because my little girl would have only been about 6 weeks old. And I think, a 24-hour flight or just getting to Australia is too much and I wasn't confident enough with a brand new baby to be on a flight like that.
yeah.
So we decided not to go. But on Boxing Day, the night before the wedding, my dad committed suicide, and he hung himself.
Wow.
So I think, that is when you say you can understand how people can get to that place. I don't know, it kind of baffles me.
Mm,
I think, everyone's different, everyone's entitled to their opinion. You never know what someone's going through when they're in that place, but to not care about the after effects of having the choice to remove yourself from this world, I can't understand it.
yeah, I spoke to Benjamin, who does the Respect Mental Health stuff,
Yeah.
and he attempted suicide, and he actually gave quite a good explanation to. He said once he did it, he regretted it instantly, and
Mhm.
luckily a neighbour found him, and he was, he got the help that he needed, but he
Wow.
felt like so much of a burden that he didn't want to put that on other people by asking for help. He thought that everyone would be better off if he wasn't there. But the way he described it, which I think is really a really good way to look at it for anyone that might be considering it, is you're not taking away that problem.
No, you're
You're
making it
passing
a
your problem
million
on.
times worse.
You're passing your problem on to everybody else. So you're thinking about being a burden, but by doing that, you're going to make everything worse for other people. Your best option is to speak to somebody and
Yeah.
give them the opportunity to support you and be there for you, because that's what they're going to choose over the alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the message from this, is that just talk to someone, whether how big or how small, whether you understand it or not, and never have preconceived ideas of what someone's going to say to you when you tell them what you're going through, because presumption, I think, in this world is just it shouldn't be used. Presumption can get you into missed opportunities,
Yeah.
and it could be that that person has been feeling the same as well, or they've been through the same, or know someone that has, or know a certain website that can help you. And the NHS for me, Barnsley doctors, was just Maria. She changed my life, and I wouldn't be doing this today if it wasn't for her helping me and just talking to someone. I went in thinking, I don't know what's wrong with me. I haven't got a clue. I just don't like myself. I have this voice in my head that is a constant judgment. I
Mm,
didn't know there was an actual diagnosis for what I was going through. I
yeah.
just thought, I'm on so many tablets now that I need to try something else.
Yeah.
So, and it's paid off 1 million times over.
It's taking that step though, isn't it, to ask
Yeah,
for the help that's hard, but it's worth it. And
absolutely.
I've seen a few things recently about people not getting having the best experiences with health professionals. But
Yeah,
there's so
yeah.
many, like the helplines and charities and things that are trained especially to
Mm,
speak with people, because if you go to a GP, then it's general. They're not a
yeah,
specialist in that area. So
yeah,
unless they refer you on to somebody that is, you're probably not going to get the help. So just kind of like,
yeah.
don't be scared to ask for it and push
Mm,
for it. So,
mm.
so what would be your top tip?
Talk. Even if it's on a forum, if you don't want to talk face to face, there are so many things where you can be anonymous now,
Mm,
and not one thing is too small to talk about.
yeah, exactly. Don't compare your problems.
Don't what?
Compare your problems.
No, absolutely not. No, no. It's like yours is completely different to mine, but then in some aspects, it's very, very similar, but for
Crossover.
completely different reasons.
Yeah.
But there's common ground there, and that's how we've come to here today. Is that we connected over mental health. How weird's that? But we're
Yeah.
both able to speak about it, and it's given us this opportunity to perhaps help other people, and I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. Exactly. Being open.
Yeah,
Right. Perfect. Well, thank you very
thank
much for
you.
speaking. See, it just flowed. It was just a chat, it was a conversation. You're fine once you got going.
Have we stopped now?
Yeah.
Thanks for that.